Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. Alan Smith here. This is the channel where I get to share my hobby and war games with all of you guys out there in the YouTube land. And thanks for tuning in today, guys and gals. Today I'm going to bring you a very special battle report, a genre that has really grown on me in the last year and a half, 2 years. Thanks to Rob Rhodes, and this is the genre of American War of Independence, right? Oh my gosh, where do I start? I have learned so much more about the War of Independence since I have started playing in this game system. What is the game system? Well, there's two game systems Rob and I have been playing in. And one is Rise and Fight Again by Stand 2 Games out of Nottingham, England in the UK. Get on their website, order the rule set. I love it. It is fun and it is realistic, okay? As realistic as you're going to get playing war games. What's the other rule set we've been playing? American War of Independence, Maurice. And it has a card set with it. Now this game is no longer in publication, but it is floating around out there in the Ethernet on eBay, etc. I was at a game convention a year and a half ago and I found a copy excuse me, with the cards, and it's also another fun rule set we're going to show on the channel. Now I want you guys to sit back. I'm going to show you excerpts of the game. Guys, I know I've said in past videos long ago I like to do battle reports right. I was going to station cameras and stuff, and I'm not saying that won't happen in the future, but the amount of investment of time, resources, signing consent forms for those who are participating in the battle reports, so we can portray their likeness, etc. on the internet. And it gets a little sticky. As you notice on the recent videos with battle excerpts, I really try hard not to get faces and voices on the videos, because 6 months, a year, I don't want someone coming back saying, hey, I don't want you putting my likeness, etc. on YouTube. So look, this is all about me just sharing my hobby time. This is just about me showing you what I'm up to. Maybe you'll be interested, maybe you won't. It might inspire you to get into a game system or rule set, or just for general interest level, right? So without further ado, we're going to get started here on the video. It's a really fun game. It's line fighting, it's Napoleonic style fighting, as it were, even though this is pre-Napoleonic times, obviously. But this is how they fought, guys. I mean, they lined up toe-to-toe with cannons in their lines, shooting at each other, right? And it's just it's an interesting era. Anything that you get into in this hobby is going to expand your knowledge of history. It's going to expand your appreciation of where we are currently and how we got here, okay? It isn't always clear cut and right and wrong, or right. It is what it is, and this is what history is about. It isn't pretty always, but it is very interesting. So sit back, grab a beverage or a snack, and enjoy the excerpts of Rob Rhodes and Al Smith fighting Rise and Fight Again. All right, here we are, guys. Here is the Rise and Fight Again over Bunker Hill, Stand 2 Games, Spiral Bound. I do have a review of this rule set in a previous video you might want to look at. Rob was nice enough to make us cheat sheets with our turn sequence, which is a very interesting thing to look at, is the turn sequence of this game. We're going into the modifiers there. Sorry for the blurry shot, guys. You know how this autofocus is. It sucks. Okay, so we got our movement rates, our command units, because we do have leaders on the board. You'll notice as we get into the battle shots here. Another thing I love about this game, guys, in this era, we have artillery, we have skirmishers, and we have cavalry. So you see here, the board is set up. My old 6x4 was my first board I ever built. And I apologize for the dots on the board, but don't ever put your game board under a copper pipe, because when it condensates, it will drip onto your board. Now you can see how majestic this game is. Now this is just a flat, open field where we're scrapping. No hills, no obstructions, just straight up, line to line, toe to toe. And you'll notice the markers. We're going to talk about the markers, guys. Stay tuned. Wait through the video. Don't pooch me. We're going to talk about those markers because they're pretty special. And they're coming soon. Now he's moving up his skirmishers, which are the Queen's Rangers. Now keep in mind, this is 15 millimeter, the perfect mass battle scale, just like Flames War battle group. He's making some rolls. He's rolling to see if they're going to follow their orders. So your leader, which is right behind there, see he's moving him up. That's his leader unit. And he's going to issue an order and roll to see if the order is followed. And remember, guys, they didn't have walkie-talkies back then. It was all done by signals, by bugles, by flags, and just yelling. Yeah, you can see how that copper pipe years and years ago, it was obviously humid down there, and it had no dehumidifier, but you can see what it does when it drips onto your board. And by the time I discovered it. So beware, guys, don't put your board under copper pipes if you're in a basement unless you have a dehumidifier. All right, making some more rolls. Moving around his skirmishers. God, I love skirmishers in this game. They're so fun, and then you just picket troops. And you can actually do quite a bit of little damage and really kind of be a thorn in your opponent's side with skirmishers. Now look again, guys. You're going to see those markers down there. Those numbers you see on the back side of the marker facing me are my fatigue score in this game, which is essentially your unit strength. And he can't see what my fatigue score is or how low my fatigue score is. This is the beauty of these markers. Now, Rob has worked with Historique, and the owner of Historique, Historique.com, where you can buy markers. Now, these markers are not available to the public yet. These are prototypes. But you can see, and I forget the name of the game that this is similar to in terms of how the markers, the opponent cannot see your strength and what your abilities are, basically. Okay. Now, as I take hits, like what Rob is doing, all I can see is that British flag. Now, when he takes a hit, or sometimes when you do a move to your limit, let's say 12 inches, you may take one fatigue hit, which means your unit was weakened by moving at its maximum rate. And he grabbed that marker and he made an adjustment on the dial marker and probably moved it down to 11 or 10. Let's say that unit was a rating of 12. Now you see, as a Continental Army unit, I am probably lower than his units. I'm ranging between fatigue scores of 5 to 7, right? And I had to sub in some of my British units so that I could have enough points on my army. We're just figuring that they were
light infantry, and they used their red tunics because they were once British militia, right? Or British units. Now see there, that's one of my better units. I've got a 9 fatigue score there. Right, now see, I'm going to grab that. See how I work the dial down as I take hits. As he's measuring for distance of fire. He's making rolls to see if he hits me, and there's no saving throws in this. Once he gets hits and things, I start taking fatigue losses. My units become weaker. Right now, this units you're looking at there on his left flank, my right flank of the Continental Army, is the Prussians, the Hessians, I should say. And God, they were beautifully painted. Now this is a fun point of the battle. Now this is where we come into blows, which happened a lot in American War of Independence and Napoleonics, is by bayonet charges. Okay, they would fire, volley, and then move in for close combat, right? And we work out that close combat here in a little bit. Now, as he comes into me, I'm allowed to make a defensive fire, especially my cannons. Now, notice my artillery for this era is in the line. Okay, they're not up on some remote hill somewhere. This is point blank battle, guys. This is no joke. You see here how beautiful the 15 millimeter armies are. They're so much fun to paint. 15 millimeter scale. They're easier to paint. Old Glory miniatures is what we're using here. Blue Moon line of Old Glory miniatures, and just how beautiful they turn out. Right, homemade bases. It's similar to a Luan material. You have to go back and look at my other videos. And you see here he's got his Queen's Rangers coming up. I just basically blow those guys out of the water. But you have the Hessians coming up there. God, they're beautiful with their mitre helmets. And you'll see that I have a unit there on the side that I'm going to bring up, a cavalry unit, which I'm going to attack his Hessians with. All right, so the earlier unit that attacked me with hand-to-hand, I repelled them, and there was another unit that came up. And here's the Hessians. You see my cavalry unit came up to meet them. Now, keep in mind that cavalry unit looks small, but it's only representative of a regiment of cavalry, right? Keep that in mind. It's not that it's a little tiny unit. I'm talking probably 20 horse, 30 horse. And they can do a lot of damage in this period, charging into line infantry. They can really disorder them, drop their fatigue, and bump them back and get them to retreat. Okay, F. Now you notice those little tags that we have that say F. That just means that the unit has fired. Okay, you could substitute that with cotton balls, etc., to signify that the unit has fired. All right, so we just keep track of what's going on the board, right? Because this is mass battles. It takes a little keeping track of. You see here, I've whittled the British forces down. At the end of the day, the Continentals are victorious. I whittle him down to the point where he just withdraws from the field. And the Continentals, now here was my tactic, and I've used this several times with Rob, is my Continentals do not move. They pretty much stand their ground and just fire. All right, guys, that's all I have for you. Thanks for coming along for the ride today. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.